Hey, welcome back into the Shopfix channel, a community joined together for the love of woodworking. In this episode, I'm going to be covering jointer blades, or jointer knives, however you may call them. And I'm going to be covering them on this benchtop Rikon jointer, and I've had this jointer for years. And I've rotated the blades, and I've made them last as long as I could, but now it's time to replace them. So I'm going to be covering everything you need to know about jointer knives, jointer blades, and that way you can make your blades last longer and you'll know what to do when it comes time to replace them. Stick around. Most of the jointers and the planers on the market today feature a helical cutter design, and that just simply means that instead of one giant blade, it's several smaller blades. And this makes it easier on the machine to cut the wood and also makes the blades last longer. Lastly, it also enables you to just replace one blade if it becomes damaged instead of replacing a large blade. Now, before you actually order new blades, you can rotate the blades that are already on there, so I'm going to show you that in the first step. I recommend taking off the blade guard for this step, and that's going to make it a lot easier to work on these cutter heads. Just make sure that your machine is unplugged before messing around with any of the blades or this blade guard. Now that we have the blade guard removed, we can easily access the cutter head. Again, make sure the power is off and the machine is unplugged from the wall. Now, I'm going to show you what you can do before you remove the blades and replace them. So most of these blades are going to have at least two sides that have cutter heads. To rotate one of the blades, you'll simply take the bit provided to unscrew the bolt. Once you have that bolt removed, you can go ahead and remove the jointer blade. It shouldn't be any problem touching it as long as you don't put any pressure on that blade that would cut your fingers. Now, you'll notice that there is a dot on the blade. If you flip it over, the cutter heads are going to be on that corner. So you have two cutter heads, 1, 2, on the side that has the dot. Now, if you were positioned like that, what you can do is you can actually rotate that blade. So you can simply rotate it just like that, and now you can notice that you're on a new cutter head. Another reason why the dot is so important is because it indicates where that blade has been before. If we take this and rotate it just like that, now if we haven't used that other blade, now we have a clean blade. And if we rotate the other one the same way, now both of those blades are going to be exposed to a new cutter head, which is perfect if you haven't rotated them before. However, I've already rotated these blades and they're both extremely worn on the other side. If you've already used both sides of your jointer blade, you'll want to replace it. Now, while I'm in the process of replacing these blades, you'll notice that there's a lot of buildup. And this is the sap from pine. Well, after cleaning up all that sap residue, these cutter heads are looking really clean. All right, now all we have to do is take our new jointer blades and install them where the bolts go. So I'll place it on there, and I'm going to be making sure that I orientate the dot on the same direction on all of these. That way, when I go to rotate these later on, I'll know that the rotation has happened if the dot is on the other side. And so it just makes it easier if you orientate these all the same direction. All we have to do is take the provided bolt and screw it in. After you've installed both of the blades, you'll simply rotate the whole cutter head with your finger to reveal the next set of holes. Make sure your dot is orientated in the same direction as the others that you installed, and then install the next bolt. And you'll simply repeat that process until all the new blades have been installed. You'll want to just double check that you do have a blade on every single hole. There we go, and we are good to go. So let's say you went ahead and rotated your blades to the fresh side or replaced them all together with a whole new set of knives. The next thing you want to do is make sure that the knives stay sharp for as long as they can. And one tip I have for you for this is varying where you position the fence. So oftentimes, especially with these benchtop joiners, we're just simply edge joining boards, and we're not trying to face joint really wide boards because these aren't very wide planers to begin with. So if you're going to be doing any edge jointing for long periods of time, I would make sure that you start in one position, use those blades for a while, maybe a month or two, and then simply move up the fence to the middle position and run that for a month or two, and then move it up, and so on and so forth, so that you're using all the blades and you're not wearing down just one set really dull. The second tip is to make sure that what you're jointing isn't material that could dull the blade. So like material like MDF and particle board, those materials sometimes can actually damage the blade. And it's just because it's very dense, and the joiner knives sometimes can get nicked, especially if you're working with particle board. So make sure that whatever you're jointing is softwood or hardwood like oak. Just regular hardwood and softwood is fine, but some of the composite materials can nick the blades, and then you'll have like a streak in your boards after you joint them, and that's just because that spot isn't getting cut down because there's a nick in the blade, and I've had that happen before. So if you want to make sure that your joiner blades stay nice and sharp, I would take like a 30-second pass or a 16th pass, but if you're getting upwards past a 16th to like an 8th, then those blades are going to dull a lot quicker because you're trying to take off a lot of wood all at once. I recommend using a 30-second, because if you use two 30-second passes, you're taking off a 16th, and a lot of the boards, unless it's really warped, a 16th is good enough to take off any unevenness in the board. If you're working with really uneven boards, then you might shoot for over a 16th, but in my opinion, keeping your joiner to cut at a 30-second or a 16th is going to make sure that those blades stay nice and sharp because you're not overworking them. And so those would be my tips to keep them sharp. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps me out. And if you have any questions regarding everything that I did in this video, you can simply comment below and I'll get right back to you. Well, that about wraps it up here today, but I wish you the best of luck with your future woodworking projects. Take care.